And we are live streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. This is Coffee with a Lawyer every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we get to answer any legal questions you may have, and you get to know myself and our team. And yeah, just know that there is no confidentiality, no attorney client privilege. So if you want to speak about specific matters, I encourage you to schedule a confidential consultation. So if you could keep any questions general, and we'll try to provide as much information as possible. And we have a special guest today, Mr. John. So, John, if you would like to ask a question, please feel free.
Yes. It's a pretty generic, I think, straightforward question. What it is that both my grandmas and my granddad was half Cherokee and both grandmas were Cherokee. So I'm Cherokee Indian. And I went to work for a company and I developed a very novel piece of software. And I did all of the coding, all of it. And what they did was they had promised a job and money and long-term contract. And what I got after the funding was released to further develop was that a person from India said that what was it? That this was like a marathon, and I was not part of the marathon, and to get out. And then after that, for many years, they basically lodged with the EEOC that I didn't know anything. I was struggling. I graduated from MIT and worked at Harvard, got an MSCE from Boston University, and and this has damaged my company for many years. And just recently, I published my code, which gives me the copyright control of that software that this big company is using. And I am looking for legal representation to take this atomic hammer and tell this company to stop it. And what I need is like a lawyer to just basically quote the Constitution. My software, my original work is mine, and it belongs to my company. And the financial damages that have been inflicted on me for the past 2 years needs to be compensated. And this guy who made the lie from India, he was trying to take my software because it's going to provide hundreds of millions, if not into $billions, for his countrymen in India. And I'm looking at my United States, and it's like, you are not defending Americans. Okay. America first, not India first, Americans first here in America.
Okay. All right. Well, you bring up a lot of issues. Let's take it one step at a time. Jurisdiction is an issue here. You say the wrongdoer who has taken your code is located in a different country, in India, correct?
No, he's here in the United States.
Okay.
But he's a foreigner, and any foreigner that commits an intentional felony is subject to every state's jurisdiction based on the territorial principle.
Okay. Even still, what you did, which was very good, was obtain copyright on your code. Did you register that with the United States?
It is registered. It has a registration number, and I can give it to you right now. Okay. It was registered on May 26, 2023, the first publication date.
Okay. I would say that's your strongest claim to go on. And I know you have other claims as well. You have possible,
defamation.
Yes, you brought up defamation issues. You brought up interference issues. So those are adjacent claims, okay? Congruent claims. But I think your strongest claim is based off of the copyright. So
Yes, I agree. It is my code.
Mhm.
I wrote everything. It's my original work. And in fact, I have a new version of that code, which is a lot more powerful, but I can't get funding until I clear this up.
Mm-hmm. You have a cloud on title right now. It lessens the value of your product because it's
But
out
I
there on the
can't
market.
get funding because there's there's something saying that I don't have full rights to my original work.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Even though
Yeah.
as of May, I have full rights because I'm protected by the United States Constitution.
Right. You have to file an infringement case.
Of FRCP Rule 65, yes.
Yes, you can file in federal court. I would suggest you file in federal court because you'll get special remedies and special damages.
Yes. And then also the legal counsel that I finally secured will get their fees paid completely.
Yes, okay, but that's a different issue when you talk about attorney's fees. You can only recover well, let's discuss attorney's fees. The United States system is different than other systems in the world. For example, in England, the prevailing party gets their attorney's fees paid by the other side. Here in the United States, that is not how our system's formed. However, we do award attorney's fees if there is a statute, such as the federal code, all right, the Copyright Act, if there's a statute, or if there's an agreement in writing, a provision in an agreement which discusses attorney fees. Now, with that being said, let's just speak practically here. Judges don't like to award lawyers money, all right? And it's not automatic. You have to motion the court to be paid your attorney's fees, and the court can rule how they see fit. They could grant it, they can dismiss it, they can reduce it. You're really at the court's discretions. With that being said, these type of cases still will require you to pay in advance for attorney's fees.
Understood.
All right.
One thing is that I don't really want to be at the mercy of a federal judge because right now I see the system is pretty corrupt. So on the initial complaint, I'm demanding a jury trial to follow up immediately with a FRCP Rule 38 demanding a jury trial. I want to remove any concept or conception that I want to accept any judgment from a judge. I want it from a jury of specifically Cherokee Indians, in which the offending foreign national said that I and my people are not a cultural fit for that company, which means that Cherokee Americans and Americans are not a cultural fit for his group, which is mostly composed of people from India.
I understand. Well, your right to a jury trial is a constitutional right. Okay.
Yes.
In this type of matter, there's sometimes you want to consider having a bench trial. That's where the judge is.
I don't trust federal judges. I have, in my experience, most of the judges are white, and they have a tendency of favoring big companies. And what I need is to be with my people, tell them I have a copyright. This was generated by Cherokee. Mm-hmm. And they are trying to rob me and my people of hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars.
You're absolutely right in terms of your analysis. Judges sometimes are just desensitized to the cases. They're in court all day hearing all different matters, and they're desensitized. A jury consisting of your peers,
yes,
sometimes can come back and give what we call nuclear verdicts. You really cannot predict how a jury will come back. So
Exactly.
So yeah, so there's also a risk to it as well. It's somewhat of a gamble. But yes, you want to have the decision determined by a jury of your peers.
Yes,
Now,
of Americans. I want them to know that this company hates Americans. That's all I want to be able to communicate.
well, there's certain evidence that probably will not be admitted at the time of trial because of its prejudicial effect. But that's
Well, I
neither
mean,
here.
basically, this is
We're
what was
getting way ahead of
communicated to
ourselves.
me. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
what was communicated to me was that me and my people were not a cultural fit for this company.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just the fact.
You could probably bring that type of evidence in to show a motive. Okay. But we're getting
and also
way ahead of
stealing
ourselves.
hundreds of millions of dollars from America to for another foreign country, which is a felony.
You're still getting way ahead of yourself. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But these are proper considerations. I mean, we do have to start preparing as if we're going to trial even now before you have filed anything. This is probably the most important time. This is where you preserve evidence. This is where you build your case. A case is kind of like an infant that you have to nurture and grow, but it's your responsibility. It is your case. So you better, do everything you can to preserve evidence. There's a lot of email communications. And let me tell you, a lot of savvy people have emails that disappear or that you cannot preserve. So be careful with that. Screenshots, preserve evidence any which way you can.
And the most important thing is I have my code and I have this copyright, which is backed by the United States Constitution. So I want the government who has made this promise, the foundation of our country, to protect the intellectual property of Americans, to enforce it.
Absolutely. And that's why I agree your copyright infringement claim is your strongest claim because you have it registered. Let me just also acknowledge that there are people in the chat. And if you have any questions, please post it and I will do my best to get to it. So back to your situation, John. And just for one more moment before we wrap it up, we like to keep these meetings brief, about 15 to 20 minutes.
No problem.
But yeah, I do think your strongest claim is the copyright infringement claim. And I'm happy to hear that you registered your code with the Copyright Office to have it submitted to the Library of Congress, because not too many people know that code can be protected by various intellectual property protections. Okay. There's patent that possibly code can be qualified as, but copyright is foundational. So I'm happy you filed it with the Copyright Office, and it does allow you to get into federal court. And I know your concerns about having a bench trial, and a jury trial is your constitutional right. So you demand a jury trial in your complaint. I will say, let's take it one step at a time. It's not always wise to just jump into litigation. It's entangling. It's expensive. We talked about how the U.S. system was formed and how it compared to other systems. The U.S. system, I think, is very fair. I believe in our system. I believe it works. It is man-made, okay? So it's not perfect, and it's certainly not free, all right? It is actually a quite expensive process. So that's why I suggest take it one step at a time. I think your first step would be to serve them with a cease and desist.
Which I did.
Well, it depends on how you did it. Did you do it on your own?
Yes, I did it on my own.
I think, first of all, you have to be careful when you do that on your own, and do not send it to third parties. All right. Keep it between you and the wrongdoer, A and B. Do not send it to third parties, because you personally can incur liability for interfering with their business relations. It's very common. It's a trap. So be careful for that. Do not send your cease and desist to third parties who are not the direct wrongdoer. And even when you do send it to the direct wrongdoer, it's very you're better off having it sent under attorney letterhead in order to protect you, because there is a thin line between making a legal demand and also being liable for extortion. Words do matter. How you phrase your correspondence does matter. You don't want to incur liability for extortion. And when there's a dispute, if they are being given proper counsel, when there's a dispute, as in when you send them a letter to stop doing something, if a well-versed counsel will not go into a dispute with just a shield. They'll come in with a sword. So they'll start asserting counterclaims against you and saying you've done things wrong. So you, excuse me.
Yeah.
You want to be careful.
The only thing I did in that was, the thing that is hurting my company is this libelous, false, provable lie that's now published. And I simply want it out of my way. The financials and stuff is almost secondary. I need clear claim to my code that is registered with the Copyright Office, and this lie taken down.
But, well, let me just premise this by saying, when things are put on the internet, it's very difficult to have it taken down. The internet is like the Wild West, okay? Because a lot of these platforms are provided immunity through federal law, Communications Decency Act, Section 230, okay? So Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, wherever it's posted, the platforms are immune. You have to know who the specific author is. In this situation,
I know who it is.
Yes, in this
and I want this foreign national who's not an American citizen's lie taken down.
I understand.
You can come to this country, lie about somebody, and actually disrupt their lives in this country, which is unbelievable.
Okay, I agree. So your recourse, and I still suggest sending a cease and desist letter under attorney letterhead.
I agree with that.
Outlining all your legal causes of action. It's a combination of a cease and desist and a legal demand. Okay, you may want to demand damages here. Your company has been damaged.
Yes, I would.
You have lost out on opportunities.
Yes.
I can see many different causes of action, but I still think first things first, send a cease and desist letter, a demand to resolve this. I would say in this situation, you may be required to do so under attorney letterhead, because even before you file a lawsuit, you're going to want to show the court that you came with clean hands, that you provided good faith efforts, every last effort to resolve this without taking up the court's time, energy, and resources. You want to go in there with clean hands and good faith. This shows your good faith efforts to resolve this. But I do think a complaint seeking damages and injunctive relief and declaratory relief. I think the declaratory relief is important in this situation. Declaratory relief is an order by the court declaring you the rightful copyright owner. I think in this situation, it's important in order for you to have clear title on this software. Because even if you present evidence to your investors that you filed a complaint, you're fighting this and everything, they're going to still see that as a cloud on your title. There are pending and existing claims. No one wants to buy a lawsuit. So in your complaint, it's important to get declaratory relief, an order by the court saying you are the full and complete copyright owner. That will help you secure investors in the future. All right. Because even if you get a decision, even if you get pursue litigation, but litigation can be a long time. It could be about 2 years. You could get a declaratory relief early on. You can motion and seek that early on. And maybe that would help you with your investments. But
yes, that would be very helpful. Yes. And the thing about it is, what I'm doing is very competitive to generative AI, which is the big hot thing in IT today. This is a battle between India becoming an AI powerhouse or America, quite frankly. I've studied AI back in the 80s when the fundamentals. Now that it's exploding now, there's some huge opportunities. And what I've produced beyond my copyrighted software is at the forefront of not just Cherokee Americans, but Americans in the IoT industry. This is very important. And quite frankly, I'm just looking for a lawyer to just say, this is my code.
Understood. And we'd be happy to serve you. I think you would be well served by taking the next step and having a further confidential consultation with me. I would need to get all the details, but that's
Yes.
neither here, not for this discussion, because we are live and there's no confidentiality here. So I appreciate.
I do appreciate you giving me this information, because basically I've been turning. It's like, I own the copyright, I wrote the code, and this foreigner comes on and tried to steal it for his country. Because, I mean, literally, this could go from hundreds of millions into billions of dollars.
Well, to bring it back to what I was thinking very early on when we discussed jurisdiction, okay, because some people can hide behind nationality. Yeah, they may be here now, but they may leave and go back to their country.
Oh, yeah. In fact, he left the company in order to escape.
Well, I would also suggest you to register your work with the World Intellectual Property Organization. All right.
World Intellectual Property.
Yes. Try to protect it in as many jurisdictions as you can. You want to what we file defensive copyright registrations now. So, India, I actually think, has their own. I don't know if they're a signatory to the treaty for the World Intellectual Property Organization. It depends. There's certain treaties, the Madrid Protocol. There's also the Paris Accords, I believe, govern intellectual property. I have to refresh myself on international intellectual property law. It is you have to, but just keep in mind, you have to now determine where to file your defensive copyrights. China, India, World Intellectual Property Organization. I believe they're connected with the UN. I think the European Union has their own governing jurisdiction. And then you're going to want to look into the Madrid protocols and I believe the Paris Accords.
Paris Accords, I wrote it down.
Yeah, I can't recall if the Paris Accords is. I know the Madrid protocols definitely addresses intellectual property. But now you have to start looking into filing defensive copyright registrations, not just here at home in the U.S., but over abroad. Because software, like you said, it is quite competitive. It is now a
it's a huge financial, and you get the right formula, it could explode very quickly and easily.
Well,
and what I've produced is quite potent.
Well, a lot of international actors can backward engineer. So
yes,
that's why it's very important to file these defensive copyright registrations, because these other countries do not respect the United States intellectual property rights. They do not. They will not acknowledge them. They will knock them off. I mean, China has been doing it for the last century. Okay, so you have to file defensive copyright registrations.
Understood.
And we may have to work with attorneys in the local jurisdictions.
Right.
It is. There are processes to do this. I would have to refresh myself with them. But you did something that not a lot of other creators do, which is file the registration with the Copyright Office. It's quite easy and simple, but it's so very important. So I acknowledge that and say you did a good job with that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Now I just need to have clear claims so that the more advanced version, I can capitalize on that and start making millions.
Yeah, you have to resolve this cloud on your title.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll email you the information to proceed. And I just want to thank you for attending. And
thank you.
Yeah, I look forward to being of service. You take care and take action and have a good day.
Yeah, appreciate it. Look forward to hearing from you.
All right, bye-bye.